This episode is sponsored by Relogic Research. Relogic is an engineering, aerospace, and technology company dedicated to solving our nation's toughest defense problems while investing in the bright minds of Huntsville. Relogic is excited to be a part of the innovation and continued growth of the Huntsville community. Visit their website today to see what they are excited about at relogicresearch.com, and all of this information will be in the episode notes. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so would you like to introduce yourself and we'll get started there?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Emily Woods. I have lived in Huntsville since I think I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
I live here currently with my husband. I graduated from Auburn University and moved straight back here, but I own a small business consulting brand and work from home and for myself. And so I've been looking for an opportunity to like connect more in the community, especially like after the pandemic. And I think that really kept people in their houses, especially self-employed people. So no, this is so exciting.
Yeah. So Huntsville native, went to Auburn. Did you always think you would move back to Huntsville, or did you think I will get somewhere else? I'll get far away from here. This place isn't cool enough for me.
Oh, 100%. Like, which was one of the funny things that we chatted about when we first got connected. No, I never thought I'd move back to Huntsville. Growing up here, you grew up here.
Yes.
So like there was not, there wasn't anything here.
No.
And
even I
I
graduated high school in 2017, and like even friends at that point were like, no, like I'll go to Auburn, I'll go to Alabama, I'll go to wherever for school, and then I will live in a bigger city. I'll live in Nashville, I'll live in Atlanta, I'll live out west, wherever it is. Huntsville is not for me.
Oh, 100%. Oh, I can't even believe that I went to Auburn. I just had a full scholarship. And so I was like, well, this is obviously the best option, but I wouldn't have even done that if it didn't financially make sense. But growing up here, like there wasn't a lot to do. I did have a good experience. Like I went to a small high school here and I really enjoyed that. But no, I did not ever think I'd move back here in college. I was applying for jobs in Colorado. I thought I would move, but I love my family. And as I did come back here during college, you could see
You're like starting to grow a little bit.
Oh, 100%. I graduated in 2019. So I could even see then it was like starting to grow. And once you are kind of on your own financially and you're like, oh, well, it could be, affordable to buy a house here, and it'd be a little bit.
It could be a lot worse.
Oh, 100%. So it got a little bit, it was more on my radar. And then I travel a lot, and I spent like 3 months traveling right after college and got home, and I couldn't imagine moving away. And I also couldn't get a job.
Okay.
Which was the kind of beginning of my entrepreneurial story.
And so talk a little bit about like, what did you ultimately end up pursuing at Auburn? And I know that like you started working in that field out of college here in Huntsville, but then quickly, I guess when the pandemic hit, quickly shifted everything, and kind of now you do what you do today. Right.
So I always thought I wanted to be a doctor. Actually, I never knew what I wanted to do. That was my issue all along. But my family's medical, and living in Huntsville, everybody is an engineer or they're military, and that's great. But that was not like my experience growing up. So I didn't have any personal experience with that. So I was like, well, all I know is medical. Growing up working in my dad's office, and that was what I knew. So I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. Yeah. And then I got to Auburn and I was a pre-med student, biology major. And I just was like looking at the road of a million years of school ahead.
Like, maybe not.
Oh, 100. No, I was like, and I have friends that are in residency right now, and like, God love them. I'm so proud of them. It could not be me.
Yeah.
It couldn't be me.
You.
So
Forward and done.
I was like, I have got to go. Like I cannot. And so I stayed in my biology pathway, and I graduated with a degree in biology, but decided to not go to medical school, and fought with that for a long time because I was like, you don't just do anything with a straight up biology degree. So I did get into grad school at Auburn, ended up opting not to go. I was kind of toying around with a lot of things, but ended up just kind of in the interim trying to figure it out. I got certified as a health coach, which is kind of like you're in between I was going to go to clinical nutrition grad school. So I did, that was something I could do on my own, kind of in the interim period. And so I started kind of taking clients on there. I ended up working in the corporate wellness department at Huntsville Hospital. And
this was like 2019-ish?
Yeah, this was like, so I graduated, I think in May, traveled in Europe, like in a backpack for like 3 months, and ran out of money and came home
and got a job
and had to get a job immediately. And so I got that job, and I was working in the hospital, and it was COVID, but I wasn't helping anyone who had COVID. So there was no reason that I needed to be exposing everyone in my life to all these germs. So I quickly was like, I have always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm like, if I can't find.
Do you remember a moment when you first had that spirit? Or do you think it just like kind of was there for a while, and eventually at that moment when you're like COVID hits, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go all in now?
So I think, and I work with a ton of entrepreneurs in like my work now, and for myself and for them, I think it's kind of always in you. Like if you're gonna have a business, I think even as a child, you're the kid out there, like whether you're doing like dog walking or babysitting or running lemonade stand, like you want to make your own money. So I think it's kind of always been in me, but I knew in college, really, if I want to travel like this and I want to have this certain lifestyle, like
can't have a 9 to 5.
No, I was like, no one's going to be loving me wanting to like leave for months on end, and remote work wasn't a thing before COVID. So I kind of always had that in me. And anyways, I saw like the writing on the wall. I was like, I'm going to have to just figure it out. And
so you quit the job and just started figuring this out, or did you do both at the same time?
At the tail end of having that job, I had some of my own coaching clients, but I was starting to see some success in that business. Okay. And during COVID, everybody was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to take my business online. Like no matter what the business was. So I kind of organically started helping some people that I had met on Instagram with their businesses. They saw that I kind of knew what I was doing. And eventually I didn't have time to do anything else. And I just organically transitioned into that. And so I became like a business kind of consultant mentor. I was teaching people how they could take their business online. And that was a necessity. If you wanted your business to survive the pandemic, you were going to know how to use social media. You were going to know how to sign clients online and develop an online product. So that's just what I got really good at.
2020 is when you officially made the shift to say, hey, I'm not doing the corporate job, I'm not doing this 9 to 5, I'm doing this passion project, but really became a company.
Exactly. It became a company. My husband looked at me one day and he was like, I was working crazy hours. Like when you're starting a business, you do, but like just insane sun up to sundown, setting my alarm for 3 a.m. You just can't do it all.
And your clients are all over the place.
All over the world.
You can't, like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm on Central Time. My clients are here. It's easy. It's manageable. You're working with clients that are all over on different time zones, all across the world. And you're having to kind of navigate what that looks like. And you've just jumped into this business.
100%. So I'm like living in my tiny apartment, like, that I moved into, and I didn't really have my feet under me. I was planning a wedding at the time, and I'd have a client that was like in Australia, but also had a 9 to 5. So I was working around her whole schedule, and I had a job. And I think you do this when you're trying to start something and you'll just do whatever it takes. But I was like, you just tell me when you want to meet.
You just want it to survive.
Oh yeah.
You're like, as long as I wake up tomorrow and the business is still there, I'm doing okay.
Right. As long as I'm still like with it. Yeah. So a lot of caffeine and a lot of not sleeping a lot, but we did it and we got there. And I was very lucky that I think the pandemic was hard for so many reasons for so many people, but it definitely gave me a jumping off point in a way that I could be helpful and like be of value to especially a lot of women is who I work with, who were like, I want to continue to have my career. I need to be here for my family. They may have lost their job or whatever. And I was like, I can teach you how to do that.
What was the main service at that point that you were selling? Cause I know like you offer a variety of different things now, but like at that moment, I mean, like, and I was in this, I guess I started the company around the same time as you did with my company, but like for me, it was whatever they need, I will figure out how to do. Was that what you were doing, or did you kind of figure out exactly what you wanted to offer and you just were able to sell that?
So that's like the way to do it, is just to be like, whatever you need, if I know how to do it.
I will figure it out. If I don't know how to figure it out, I'll figure out someone who does know how to do it, and I will learn how to do it, and I will make sure you're happy.
Right. And you're young and you know how to use the internet. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, there is no mystery here. Like today, there are no mysteries. You can figure it out. So for me, I was kind of doing that, but that was so much work. Like I couldn't predict, and I would be selling stuff to people and I'd be like, well, how much does this cost? I don't know. So I'm making something up. So in the end, I did consolidate down my like method for helping people who were kind of at this general stage I was finding, and like kind of having a business idea, not knowing how to bring it to life online.
So most of your clients like either just had the initial concept, maybe had just made the Instagram, made the Facebook page, but they hadn't done much.
Exactly. They were like, I thought this would be easy. They'd go get a certification, or they'd try to use their degree, or even like they'd say, I learned this in my corporate job. I know what I'm doing, but I cannot get clients and I cannot market myself because they've never had to do that before. And that's not really something you learn in school. Even I work with people who have MBAs, but they're like, I didn't learn how to be the product really. And so I ended up consolidating my method into like a 12-week program. And I essentially wrote like a textbook that went along with it. And this was just over time, like you said, people need something, you kind of create the resources around that. And I just started compiling things together. So now when someone works with me, this is 5 years later-ish, they get like a 110-page book literally of like, here's what we're going to do.
It's a 12-week process? Or,
yeah, a 12-week now, it depends. If I have somebody, now I work with a lot more advanced business owners as well as newer people. So some people don't follow that course curriculum exactly, but if I need them to learn something, I have them doing reading and watching course materials before I ever see them, so we can talk and do that true like mentorship back and forth. And
I guess, is your like course, is it like videos of you talking about different things? Is it written things? Is it a variety of both? Is it a variety of like, here's softwares that are helpful for you to use? Like, what all does it encompass? Because I mean, like, I'm thinking of what I use on a daily basis for the business. Like, is it literally just the things that you use and how you use it into a written document to give to them? Or like, is it more specific than that?
So I would say it's more specific than that. And I'm aware at this point of like my ideal client, this person that is generally new to the business, like they're looking for like a low overhead way to do this, generally working around another job that they have. It's very rare that I get somebody that's like, this is all I'm doing and I have a big business budget. So let's figure it out. So it's more specific in that I've modeled things so that it fits like that person's needs, but also like I've done this for long enough now that I can specifically recommend, like, not all my clients want to have a podcast or want to be on YouTube, but if they do, we're working on that. Specifically, people want to, especially if they're in a different country, we're working with different payment methods, and contracting is different depending on how clinical people want to get. So I've over time been able to compile like advice and resources that I can customize if they don't fit the structure that is just my general thing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, there's one thing to like realize you're good at something, and there's another thing to make that into a business. Like, and the shift, I mean, for me is the same way. It was like, I started the podcast, we started just meeting people. Then quickly they started helping those people. Quickly that became a business. Like, was it that sort of the same time frame for you where it was like, I think I can help people with this. I helped one, they liked it. Let me help two more, they liked it. Well, then you have 6, 7, 8, and you're like, well, I should probably make this a business.
Right. So for me, it was like, I'm good at this, and I'm recognizing my skills of talking to people, and I'm not afraid of sales, and certain people are. And this was all new. Again, my degree in biology did not prepare me for that. It was like I was just
not too many marketing classes when you get a biology degree.
Anything, finance, anything. I was learning it all kind of as I went. But I think for me, it was more than anything realizing that if you just get out there on social media and you talk about what you do, people would like approach me and online.
Ask for questions.
And they would ask for help, and can I book a call? And even though I was new and I had a really small audience at the time, it didn't matter. Like, I replaced my 9-to-5 income really quickly, and people would. I think that's an interesting thing that people deal with. Like, well, I have a small audience, I have a business idea, but no one's going to listen. And I'm like, imagine if you stood in a room in front of your 200 Instagram followers. That's a lot of people. You'd be sweating, like you'd be nervous. So I just, as I realized like the power of social media, that's when I kind of recognized really whatever I felt like I was good at, if I could just communicate it efficiently, and effectively, then that's a lot of power there.
And so, I mean, so your kind of diving into social media was just you doing it yourself. And it was just, so like, when did you kind of get into a influencer like status on social media? And like, what was that 3 or 4 years prior to like making the business, or was that literally a year before?
So influencer status, I guess, kind of meaning like larger audiences of people viewing my stuff and getting approached by brands. So I still don't do a ton of that, because it's so much more profitable for me to focus on like a high ticket 100%. Service and a long commitment client relationship. But that all came from YouTube. The thing that I think made me stand out was like when I started on Instagram, like it wasn't all about video. No. It was just you post on Instagram and you're good to go.
It was just like a single photo and that was it.
Right. When I was in college though, I probably, because I was trying to understand something I was learning in school, kind of got used to using YouTube and saw the power there. And basically for me, I ended up filming like one YouTube video where all I was doing was walking people through. It was a certification that I got that I was using in my business. And it has accrued like tens of thousands of views. It is like where so many of my leads come from. But I quickly realized like...
And what year was that you made that video?
That was like 2019.
2019. So it was literally like almost a year before. I mean, it wasn't like something that you'd like, oh, I've been doing this throughout high school, throughout college, and then you made the business later. It was literally like maybe less than a year.
It was my senior year of college, and the video, it's like still online. I'm just sitting on my bed, walking people through this stuff. I ended up, and I actually, through that video, I created kind of a like study guide type situation. I was my first like passive income offer. I realized like people are interested in what I have to say. I could sell that information versus emailing 1,000 people, like not enough information. And to this day, like I still like make a lot of passive income through that. And it's all truly passive because YouTube is
it just does its thing, and you just sit there and whatever.
Does its thing, which is great. So yeah, it all happened very quickly. Like prior to that, I was the only entrepreneurial thing I was doing I was a yoga instructor, and I would kind of bounce around to what's the next like highest paying job. And I ended up being the yoga instructor for a few of like the football wives at Auburn, which was really fun. And I'd go to their houses and we had a great time, but that was the only thing I had done really to like promote myself before.
Yeah. I mean, business. Like, and it's so interesting. It's like the timing of the Beyond Rockets is very similar to the timing of yours. Like it was May of 2019. I launched the podcast. That's when you graduated.
Yep.
October of 2020 is when I formed the LLC.
You were still in college.
Yeah, I was still in college.
That's like so cool.
And so like
I was so lost in college.
Like I think the podcast started my, I guess, sophomore year of college. Yeah. So I graduated 2017. So yeah, sophomore year of college, I started the podcast. And then, junior year, I had the company. And then after I graduated, I went full time. So like it was, I mean, it's I think that's what's sometimes gets scary for some people, is that they think it has to be something that you've thought about for years and years and years and years and years. And you have all these plans and you have all this like this, you've done all your research prior to make something like this happen. When in reality, you just have to be willing to go for it.
Which people won't do. No. Like they're petrified of that. I call it like messy action. I'll tell people all the time, like I've given them all this information. They'll have an opportunity come up and they get freaked out. They're like, I can't do this. I'm not ready. I'm like, this is your moment. Yeah. You're either going to say yes, you're going to do it, or like it's time to throw in the towel in a way, because it's all about getting out there and do it. Anybody can have a business idea and like post on Instagram a lot, but it's actually doing the thing that you're setting out to do and kind of being bold enough in that. So I thought that was interesting for you being in college, like having a business, even for me graduating in like the year after school, being in this weird position. I'm like doing my business and traveling, and like it's not real. Like no one knows where I am, what I'm doing. It's an interesting
I think
thing.
For me too, it's like one of those things. It's like I didn't even know, even up until, I mean, I would really say up until July of 2023. So like not that long ago, did I even know how to sell what I did and what I did. And like I've had the business and I've been full time in the business for, at that point, over 2 years. Yeah. I'd been full time in the business, and I still at that point did not know what I did and how to sell it.
Yeah.
Now
crazy.
it's funny now to see, I know how to sell it. I know what it is we do. And now it's like, goodness gracious, like this is, why didn't I figure this out 3 years ago? But it's also like, I think being willing just to jump in and say, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to I figured out something that people like. People like the service I provide. People like me. Let me see if I can sell this. Now you just start kind of like acquiring clients, and then you realize, I don't know how to sell this. I don't know what I'm doing. Or I know what I'm doing, but I just don't know how to sell it.
100%. Oh my gosh. This is like such a thing I talk to people about. Like if someone hires me when they're already in the business, and they'll be like, I have just been on the treadmill sprinting with this, doing whatever people ask me to do for so long. But then when you want to increase like the predictability of your income or streamline the business, like I know you and I were talking previously just about like you kind of streamlining down 100%. What you offer, and you have to take a full stop, like get out of the fast lane, be like, what am I doing? What does it cost to work with me? Because generally when you get to that point, you're not charging enough, because it's, you have no idea. 3 years ago.
You have no idea. And that's one thing that I would love to kind of get your perspective on is pricing. Cause I think it's one of those things. I look back when I first started the pricing, I mean, my first client was just paying me coffee. Like it was a coffee shop, and I was like, I'm already here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can do it well.
I'm tired.
And I'm already here. Like, you just give me a gift card. So they would literally just give me a gift card on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And so I'd get like, they were like, oh, you can get all the merch we have. We'll give you a bag of coffee and you get a gift card. I was like, sweet.
Like, vibes, let's do it.
Let's do it. And then like they started liking it. And I'm like, well, would you pay me now? Like, how much do you charge?
But let me go home and think about that.
Hold on a second. How often do I post? How many days a week? Okay. And then what's a good per post? I don't know.
Right.
And I think the issue too for small businesses and people wanting to do their own thing that are listening to this, it's when you Google that for pricing, it shows you, industry. It's like it's computing that down to what you do.
Yes.
is very hard. So how did you go about looking at the, hey, here's what these leaders are in marketing and what they charge? Well, then what do I charge? Like, I'm not them,
right?
But I'm also not here. But I'm also like, where do you land?
Yes, 100%. Right. No, at the time I'm like, what is somebody going to pay a 23-year-old girl
100%. Yeah.
to do? So it's a combination of things, and every service and product doing terrible.
Yeah.
I think they're on the rocks now again, but it's okay. They're going to come back. But they like doubled their prices arbitrarily or something along those lines, and it was great. And this is the thing is like if you're the cheapest on the market, that's not good either.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to know your market because you also don't want to be too expensive.
Yeah.
Like I work with new business owners. I can charge for a very high value service, but for me, like I work with people on really good payment plans.
Yeah.
And we do things that way. So you look at your target market, you have to know who that is, which is a hard decision sometimes in the beginning. You look at the industry standards and then a lot of market research as well. So not being afraid to work with people like you did, you know, if they want to buy you a coffee, even if you're buying them a coffee, I'll tell my coaching clients, like just in exchange for testimonials and just feedback, get out there and just do things. Of them are businesses, and you can find out what's being charged more on like that micro level, the person to person business level. And you kind of combine from there, knowing too how much time you're spending on what you do is important.
What's interesting too, and I think it's tough, and I would love to get your perspective on this, is that, you know, I think from my case, you know, you start getting clients, you don't really know what to offer them. You know what to offer them, but you don't know what the price is. So I started getting clients, and then you realize at a certain point, I had the realization I have too many clients because I'm at a price point that is too easy, and they have no reason to say
like,
no.
Sure.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that's all you charge, and you do all these people. It's great. So like, how do you go to a point where you can raise pricing and then either phase out the clients you already have, or go to them and say, hey, this is what it looks like? Do you just start offering a new pricing, or do you say, hey, like I have too many clients, I can't handle what it is at these rates. Do you go to them and then you say, hey, like, if like I love working with you, we can offer you this, and this now, and it's going to be this now a month instead of this. Like, how did you go? Did you have that moment in your business too, where you're like, I have too many at this rate, and I got to charge more? Like, do I phase them out? Do I keep them? Do I ask them to pay more? Do I just start charging more? Like, and I still see that now too, where it's like, you start adding, like, really it's more this price now, not this price.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. And I know it feels like such a sticky situation, but like, it's so important to get to that. And you can't just sit at your pricing and every time you think like, I'll never be able to charge more than this, you can, because you get faster at what you do, you get better, and you have less time. So I think like the principle of it is if you have too many people saying yes to you and you're not getting any no's, like in any business, you are not charging enough. Yeah. That's like point blank period. You need to be hearing no sometimes because not everybody should be able to access
a no is a great thing.
100%. Because if every single person you talk to is a yes, you're going to be overrun.
Yeah. You're going to be like, wait a second, I wonder what other people are charging.
No, you're like, why is everyone flocking to me because it's cheap? Yeah. No, so you want to be hearing no, and that's important. And you want to be able to deal with pricing objections, and like that improves your sales skills. But in that moment where you have your client base and maybe it's a new calendar year, like I got to reassess my pricing. You can be the person who literally just has people on a contract, and you can be very kind of cutthroat about it. If that's your business model and you're okay with it, and just say like, this is now what it costs to work with me. Yeah. You know, this is the data you've been, you know, whatever your client has hired you to do, show them the positive results of that and encourage them that what you can do is now worth, you know, it's worth more, and you show them that. But what I tend to lean more towards, because I think it's a more realistic answer, is you incentivize and work with your past clients, because no matter what, people won't renew their contracts just because they're just done. 100%. They're over it, or they've achieved what they needed. Some people will see the value in what you do, and if they want to resign, and you're like, this is what I'm charging now, but because we're already connected, give them a cut of some sort, or add another incentive, and that'll be good enough for them. So I like to kind of work in that incentivized space, and then over time, you know, every time you bring on a new client, like that's where you start your new trend, and you have to give things time to develop in your business. So 6 months down the road, your pricing looks totally different, but you didn't alienate anybody who loved working with you. So I think that's maybe the most realistic answer.
And it's a tough, and I think like, you know, it's easy to like, I look in hindsight where like, oh, like I can't believe I was doing that, or or how you approach that scenario. But also like, there's going to be scenarios, and I see it even today, and you probably see it too, where it's like, you think you've gotten out of this sticky situation, or like you think you figured out this thing of the business, and then this thing happens. You're like, oh, I really don't know how to do that. I haven't really figured that out. Or I haven't really dealt with every scenario or everything that could potentially happen because of this.
Yes.
But I thought I did. And like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen year over year. It's going to happen. It could happen all the time.
100%.
But I think being like, it's that back to that beginning. It's like, you have to be willing just to jump in. You have to be willing to say, I have this skill set. I have the ability to sell this, and I'm just going to go for it.
100%. I think being a business owner makes you smarter. I encourage like everyone I talk to, I'm like, if there is any skill you have, which everyone has, a monetizable skill, like find out what that is and start making some kind of income online. Like I just started offering just a service of like, if you know you'd like to have an online stream of income, I can help you figure out what skill you need to use and how to structure that out. But with that being said, like I just think it's so important to be like adaptive and like know that not everything is a crisis, because you'll always be figuring out new stuff in your business. And yeah, like I said, I think that being a business owner makes you smarter. It makes you think faster. You are a good problem solver because you just have to be.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the owner.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to figure anything out for you. You can brush things under the rug, but they're still going to be there 6 months later, when you run back into them. So it's just that concept of like, this isn't a crisis. I know how to figure this out. Again, the internet, if you are just literate in using the online space and you improve that, you can figure out anything. But it's that expectation of like, you're not going to be perfect all the time in any business that you own. And once you're okay with that, then you're smooth sailing, because you're like, 100%. It's fine. I knew I was going to have to figure stuff out, and I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, like being not in 9 to 5, your life is, I mean, I see it too for me. Like, it's very flexible. Yep. You can do really kind of what you want, when you want to do it, go where you want, when you want to do it, and all that. Like, what does a typical day look like for Emily?
Yeah. Okay. This is funny because I just started on my TikTok, like sharing this every day, because I get asked that all the time. I mean, standard things in a day. I talk to my clients in an office hour session every Monday through Thursday. So I've consolidated that. I only take calls usually Tuesday through Thursday. I do some admin every day. It's social media posting and recording. I do a lot of things in batches. If I'm going to get up and, put makeup on, I'm like, okay, we're going to film a lot today. So I don't have to do this again for the rest of the week, but it's a lot of working in stints. I don't think when you don't work a 9 to 5, you realize I don't need to sit at this desk for 8 hours, because you're not being productive. No, people even at a 9 to 5, they know 100%. That. So it's a lot of what, my 2-hour admin block here, then I'm going to come back and do client support here, or maybe I'm going to have a 4 or 5 hour filming session. I have people that work for me at this point. So communicating back and forth, are things getting edited? Are we, doing?
You have the business, you have the podcast, and I think the podcast, mention a little bit about what that is. Cause I think that it's become an avenue at which you've probably gotten clients from. You've grown social media wise from it, the content you created, the clips you create. Yep. Talk a little bit about how this podcast came about.
Yeah. So I have had a YouTube channel, like I said, since I was in college, and I transitioned that over to my business, and I have been posting multiple times a week, just educational stuff. Like if you just need 20 minutes of education on whatever topic, lead generation, product development, etc., I sit down and I teach in tangible steps what you can do. So I already had the experience with filming, and I had my audio set up, and I was like, I could easily just turn this into a podcast. But something that I wasn't covering within my niche at the time was the financial literacy side of owning a business. Because when I started my business, it was painfully clear to me, like I had never learned anything about finances. It was like, what were we doing? So I had to learn all that myself, and I had like my accountant, and I have a CFO in my business now, and I had to know what I was talking about to make sure that they knew what they were doing, and with taxes and all these things. But also, we were talking about my lifestyle. I travel a lot, and like my husband and I will do like, several month-long trips in Europe, and we just work while we're there. But people want to know, like, how do you do that? Yeah. How are you managing your finances? We started a real estate investing business together, my husband and I as well. So I would get all these questions. So I started my podcast called The First Million Podcast. I heard a quote, and I say it, and I don't know who actually said it, but it was like the first million is hard, but the second million is inevitable, or something. It was like that idea of just, if you build your financial literacy and you build your business or whatever you need to do, like you will reach kind of that flow state. You'll figure it out. The growth will continue. So I kind of loved that quote and named my podcast that. And I just talk about more of like the digital nomad and financial literacy side of it.
And when did you launch the podcast?
I think it was like it might've been almost 3 years ago, actually. The water gets muddy.
2021-ish?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So like a year after the business, you were like, let's make this into a podcast.
Yes.
Let's kind of make this avenue as part of your, weekly posting, monthly, like
Right.
social media plan,
Yes.
podcasting became a part of it.
Yep. Following the like open door policy, which I call it, where I'm like, if you see an open door, so I was getting all these questions about this topic, I'm like, go through it and let that guide where your business goes. So that open door for me was people were like, you're in your 20s, like how I don't even know what you're talking about because I don't.
I also really don't know what you do.
No.
I don't really know like what you sell.
Right.
They see it from the outside and they just don't really understand it. So the podcast kind of gave you the opportunity to explain it, talk a little bit about it. And so but it's pretty much just you talking. It's not like this. It's not like interviewing people. It's just you on a topic talking for. Is it structured? Like, like, do you go through and say, hey, here's the topic I want to talk about. Here's these points I want to hit, and here's how long I want to go? Or is it a little bit more free going than that?
I would say I always have, I say a script, a set of notes. I go through and plan everything. Like I said, I have an editor now, so I will batch record like in a couple days for the whole month. So I have it all planned. I know what I'm going to talk about. And yeah, I would say it's pretty structured, but it is casual. It's just me and my mic, and I don't wear headphones. I like just sit there and record. And the only thing that I do is because of my like YouTube experience, I have a nice camera that I set up and I do the video side of it.
And how, like, what's the cadence at which episodes release? Like, do you release episodes weekly?
Every week.
Okay. So is it the same day every week?
Mondays.
Every Monday you have a new episode release.
Every Monday is a new First Million podcast episode, and every Wednesday is when I do like my educational topic YouTube.
Okay. So you have the YouTube videos for the podcast, you have the audio on Spotify, Apple, everything, so people can listen and watch it.
Yes.
And you batch record. So like you've probably already done March. March is already done.
I just passed it over yesterday. Yep.
Okay. And so and then the editor kind of goes and does the audio and the video, and then did they schedule everything too for you? Okay.
So my editor, I was kind of dabbling in technical writing for a little bit, but I love writing a good SOP, my operating procedure for what needs to happen. So I hired an editor for the first time like 2 years ago, and I just realized if you already have the footage, there is so much more you can do. So now, not only is she, and it's all remote, I've never even met her. Oh, wow. We've worked together for years, which is a little sad, but I know a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
And so she gets my footage and edits it, but she cuts probably 100 clips a month from all my videos. So like if you go to my YouTube channel, there are hundreds of shorts. She's posting those on TikTok, also on Instagram.
Wow.
So I'm able to get that exposure out. And that's like for anyone starting a business. Like if you record one thing, like there are 10 different ways you can chop that up.
I mean, that's like my number one selling point for anyone wanting to do a podcast. Cause like that's the service that we sell. We only sell podcasting. Like that's what we do. If you want a logo, I will send you to someone else. I have friends that do logos. I have friends that do websites. I have friends that really do more social media than I do. I mean, we've really transitioned out of social media. We have a couple of clients we still do it for because I like the relationship. I like what I do for them. But it's one of those things that's like this conversation right now, like we're at 30 something minutes, like it's gone by like that.
Yep.
We are capturing the videos. You're watching this episode too, but like the eclipse, I mean, like it's insane.
It's insane.
And it's one of those things that's like, oh, we have the ability to, on some of our clients, to bring in a team where we can capture even photos. We can capture like the production level is more than just me setting up my own cameras.
Yes.
And that like, then you're creating, hundreds of pieces of content. Oh, and you did this episode 3 years ago? Well, we can pull content from that too.
Yes, exactly. It's still relevant. Or like, let's re-record that and elevate.
100%.
You know what? Content recycling is so major, but I tell people, so like you do the podcasting and like the long form video side, and somebody would come to me and they're like, I maybe have all this video footage and I have no idea how to use it. I can't manage all these platforms, but for so many businesses, like TikTok is the new thing that people are intimidated by. But I'm like, if you're filming any type of content, as long as you're editing it the right way, you can get on a posting schedule and you have the opportunity like every day for potentially like millions of people to see what you're doing. We're in this really cool place, which I've been talking about a lot on my socials, where you can just be sitting in your house or in your store or your restaurant or wherever. And like you have access to so many people if you just post the content. Like that's what it comes down to. That's a lot of what I've kind of transitioned my business into, as far as like locally. I still do all my business mentorship stuff, but so many businesses don't know how to do that social media piece and don't realize like the younger generation, like your younger millennials, Gen Z, like they're using social media as their search engine. They are not Googling you. So if you haven't posted on social media in a year or in a month, they think you're closed.
Or it doesn't look good.
Right.
It's like,
100%.
Like when I go to a new place, it's like, what do my friends or people that I know recommend to go restaurants? Okay. Well, they recommend these 4 or 5. go to Instagram, look at those 4 or 5
Yep.
restaurants on Instagram. Well, these 2 haven't posted in a year. Well, I'm probably not going to go there,
They're out of
even
business.
if they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem well. Well, these
No.
2 post all the time. They actually just posted their special today. Ooh, that looks really good.
Yep.
I want to go there.
Yep.
And so I think that's one of the things that's like you have to be willing and able to say, at the end of the day, especially if you're a service that is not dependent on a location, like you sell something online.
Yes.
Like, goodness gracious, like there is so much opportunity for you to be seen and be heard
100%.
on social media now.
Yeah.
That like, you're just missing the opportunity if you're not doing it.
It's like burying your head in the sand in a lot of ways. And it's so worth, like if you're going to invest anything in your business, like it needs to be in like the digital marketing direction, because like I have clients that have very successful businesses and they're moving to other countries and they're doing all this crazy stuff and they are like worried about their website. I'm like, you don't need a website. No one's Googling you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like you make sure your Instagram looks good. If anything, maybe get into the TikTok and YouTube space, but that's like the future of
like,
all businesses.
I think like we did a website update for Beyond Rockets this year. And like, I think making it look at least somewhat presentable and like making sure at least is people now come to the website and they know what we sell.
Right.
And like, that's the number one thing. Like, I don't really touch it too much more. We do a couple updates here and there. Right. This thing isn't looking well. We'll add a testimonial to the website. But for me, making sure people know what Beyond Rockets is. Like at the end of the day, like for the longest time for me, it was Clark's a podcast host. Like he has his own podcast. And then I'm like, well, I actually have a company. Like I do this for people.
Right.
Like I'm not just a podcaster or whatever. Like
Right.
I actually have a company. And like, oh, what do you sell? Like, okay, well, obviously my website doesn't make it clear, so now it does.
Yeah, the best feedback. You're like, okay, got it. Like,
got it. Goals. I will make sure this makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so I know, like you mentioned, you have an editor. You mentioned a couple other team members. Like, what does the total team members look like to make your business run and operate?
Oh my gosh. So they keep my world going around. So first of all, I have 2 amazing co-coaches. I realized a while back that it was a big liability for me to be the only one who like knew my method and who could work with my clients. So if for some reason I not only have a client that maybe needs like a little bit of special attention in one area or another, but if anything with scheduling comes up, like I said, for my clients who suffer, I have people that are trained in my method and can jump in and whether it's host calls or field questions. So that's super, super helpful. And just, again, for the client's sake, it's just important.
Yeah.
And, if even if I'm sick or like I got COVID and I was sick for like 2 weeks and that actually didn't have to throw a wrench, like my clients will be going through a big launch. They're like, you can't be sick for 2 weeks. Like I'm in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. But I have an amazing accountant, which I don't know that would be considered a team member, just so much as outsourcing, but making sure that taxes are major in a small business. Like if you don't know how to allocate your funds for like quarterly estimates and also save for the end of the year. I mean, small businesses get wrecked constantly by that.
And then the moments when, oh my goodness.
Do you have an accountant?
Oh, I do. I have a bookkeeper and it's
to.
been great. And I think the biggest thing that I got, like, I guess it was 2022 was a good year, but we get one of those things. It's like, the year starts, like I should pay quarterly. The year's like growing, like I think I'll be okay as long as I just put things aside.
No, pay quarterly.
And then the business grows. And then at the end of the year, you're like, oh, this doesn't look great.
Like, oh, did I save 35% of my income?
And then we buy a house. You're like, well, then you also have to pay federal before you can buy the house. Like, and you're like, oh, you're a small business. Do you actually make money? Well, yes, we do. Like, here's the money. Oh, well, you pay your taxes. Well, we're gonna pay them. Like we just filed them. Like, oh, we pay them before we can buy this.
100%. Yes.
Okay. So like here's my savings. Good luck. I hope we can eat when we in this house. But like,
yes, we're in our empty house.
At least we have a house.
100%. No, and that's major. I talk a lot about like investing on the First Million podcast, because I'm like, if you have a business, like no one's putting into retirement for you. All these different things you need to be in charge of. But that was huge for me. Like I wanted to start investing in real estate, and people were like, your books have to be on another level of organized. There cannot be any gray area. It's going to, the fine tooth comb will be going through everything. So he's amazing and keeps me very in line, and I'm always probably bothering him. But then I also have a CFO who is like my combo bookkeeper, invoice management, like late fees, all of the things, when you deal with clients, you deal with real people who, I didn't get that
30,
email.
net 15. Yes. What is it going to be on? Well, like I would love for it to be the first of the month if you'd be able to do that, but like some of them they can't.
Right.
And depending on the client, you have clients that pay the beginning of the month, you have clients that pay the middle of the month, and you have clients that pay at the end of the month. You sometimes have clients that are 2 months behind. I've had that last year where it's like this client has 3 invoices out and I'm just
Sweating.
still doing the work. And you're like,
no, you can't be still doing the work.
and you're just like,
Don't do that.
And then you're like, it's going to get paid. It's like, I sure hope it's going to get paid.
Oh,
I sure
see,
hope it's going to get paid.
At this point, I'm like, and we'll see, but you won't be seeing me until
it was a lesson learned. And I think sometimes like you have to have moments like that. You have to have the tax moment where you're like, oh no, I did something wrong. I didn't do it correctly.
And
like
hurts.
like 2023, we paid quarterly taxes, even if it hurt. Even if it was going to be tough to pay it, we were going to, and I'm about to send off the stuff to get filed taxes like this weekend. So it's like, I think we did great. I think we did what we needed to do quarterly, and it's going to come back, and I'm going to say, this is the best thing ever. And like, and now we're even, but like, as soon as 1 year ends, you're doing it again. Like right now I'm having the conversation with my CFO. It's like, how much do I need to set aside? Well, you got this big check in. Oh, well, now I got to set more aside because that's part of this quarter. And like, it's like all these things, but it's also like, though those things are tough to go through, I couldn't imagine working a 9 to 5 and not having to deal with those. Like I would much rather deal with those things in my own business than be in an office 9 to 5.
Oh, people have pestered me for years, like, oh, we do security and retirement and this and that. And I'm like, I'm good. I invest heavily into my retirement. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, if you were just educated, you can do these things yourself. And I'm not a like 9 to 5 basher. I think that's something that is a little bit prevalent.
And I think 9 to 5s are great for a lot of people. Like,
people love them.
Yeah. And like, there's nothing wrong with them.
No.
Like that's not at all what we're trying to say. But I think if you have the itch to do something that's not 9 to 5, it's okay to have that itch, and it's okay to do something that's not 9 to 5.
And in a city like Huntsville, like this whole idea of like, I like this town and I like this city and my friends and my childhood here was great and everything, but there you have your moment of like, I'm not going to fit here because I don't want to do like, not just the typical thing, but I want to do something very like kind of alternative. But I truly believe that like, especially like young people who just naturally kind of have this high like internet literacy, you are like so needed. There's such an opportunity, and to not be afraid if you want to do something different to do it, because the asset you can be, even if you want to be in corporate, like you can do so many things. You just don't have to fit a mold that doesn't fit. I think there's more options than ever if you do have that like entrepreneurial itch. So yeah, back to the CFO point, essential. Your financials people will save you time and time again. And I found that when I didn't have help in that area, it like deterred me like in a subconscious way from like wanting to bring on new clients and things. It was like, almost, oh my God.
Yeah. And it kind of got to, for me, it got to the point where it's like, you know, you want to add more because you want to help more. You want to be making more, but it's also like with that becomes there's an avenue at which that becomes an issue if you don't know what the CFO and you don't know what this money side looks like. Because with more money comes more responsibility.
More problems.
Yeah, more problems.
Yeah, again,
and so you have to make sure you're aware of it. But now when I have those in place, like I am confident in going to sell, and if they come back, I am confident in knowing what I need to do financially to make that look okay.
Yes, to any business, it's like that same idea. You got to get out of the fast lane, and you got to do it like quarterly.
And there's like, working on the business versus in the business, and I think making sure that you can balance both, because it's important to be able, like, you obviously have to work in the business and making sure you deliver what you need to deliver. But stepping out and working on the business, making sure that it's a well-oiled machine too. So at the end of the day, like, you can be in it and it could be falling apart, but you don't know because you haven't stepped out.
No, it's like, I always imagine that scene in SpongeBob where he's standing there and there's just papers flying and there's filing cabinets going, and it's like literally my clients will be having a meltdown and I say that. So I'm like, it's okay.
It's fine.
We'll be okay. We have our moment and we'll be good. So yeah, the staying organized, like working on the business. Yeah, that's a really good way to put
huge.
it.
Yeah. And so if someone's listening, if a small business owner is listening and they you know, are interested in working with you, they want to find out more information, they want to become a client, especially because like your audience is obviously way more outside of Huntsville than my audience. So people in Huntsville that are listening and they want to find out more information on what you do and maybe be a client of yours. Where can they find out that stuff?
So the best place is on social media. So all my social media is just Emily Claire Woods. There's an underscore after my Instagram, but it's across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll give that all to you. So
perfect. It'll all be in the episode notes. So if anyone's listening and they want to go directly to your stuff, they can just visit the episode notes.
So everything is linked there. But one thing that I'll also send you that I've started doing is, as I've wanted to like plug more into the Huntsville business space, I'm doing more. I've developed these like social media skills over time: copywriting, social media design and management, content creation, all these things that a lot of people need. Any business owner that I talk to, whether I'm at Pilates here, I'm at coffee, even you and I had a meeting and people are leaning over like
they're asking us questions.
SOS, like I've still been DMing her. She's great. Rachel, shout out. Like, but I've started like to develop a little bit of a deck of offers that is everything from just if you have a small marketing budget and you need like a 90-minute session of like, look, here's going to be your signature content pieces. I'm going to show you how to edit them, how to shoot them. Like you can do it, but I'll teach you how to actual like content creation on the monthly.
Actually, you'll do it for them and then you'll make it happen.
Exactly. I'll do it. I'll write the copy. We'll figure out your messaging, clarify that. Because I have the background in business mentorship, it's more than just, let me post on your Instagram. It's like, I will tell you what the problem is if you are not having your desired
results. And if it's
results.
not working, we'll make sure we do something that's going to work.
Look
and
at the
we will
data
figure
and
out what's actually happening.
100%. So I have a whole deck prepared about that. I'll give that to you. So that's what I would imagine most people like in Huntsville with an in-person, front-facing business, or they want to start something online. There's a place for you to learn either through mentorship or through like direct content support, or even just like an encouraging chat. I do free consultations like just for that purpose because I think some people just need the confidence boost. Like it's a good idea.
Yeah. And you're doing okay. You got this.
Right. And breathe and you got it.
Yeah. So, and I think what's exciting too, and I'm excited to announce on this episode is that Emily will be on future episodes as well. We're going to be doing a sort of a marketing series, talking a little bit about specific areas of social media, specific areas of marketing, podcasting, video work. And so that series, we're not yet sure exactly when we're going to launch that. This episode, if you're listening to this, is going to come out in April. And so we'll have that series that will start after that. But we're really excited to continue this relationship, continue these conversations. I think it's going to be important to have that out for people. It's one part of the podcast that we're excited to grow. But thank you for being here today. Thank you for talking a little bit about your business and your journey. And I'm excited to have you on future episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.